Pastor Brian from Summit Church here. A couple weeks ago, I read a report on the latest research from the Barna Group. And one statistic stands out from the rest. They found that 80% of practicing Christians have a positive view of the church, but only 21% of non-Christians think of the church in a positive way. Now, that's a huge gap. They broke this down further by gender and age and level of education, and there's some differences there, but the fact remains, it's very likely most of you watching this video have a positive view of the church, but with the people around you, 4 out of 5 don't. Now, what this means and what we're doing about it here at Summit Church is the topic for this week's edition of Wednesday's Words with Pastor Brian. We talk a lot at Summit Church about reaching out to those around us, and this research helps us understand the mindset of the folks we're seeking to reach, and that's a good thing. Because we attend church and we like our church, it's easy for us to think that others think the same way that we do. And these numbers clearly show that isn't true. So while you might think that on a scale of 1 to 10, the person you're inviting to Summit might be around like a 5 or a 6 or a 4, the fact is they might actually be like at a -2 or more. And you might think those perceptions aren't true of our church, and I hope that's the case, but their perceptions were probably formed over the years. And so it's super important for us to have an accurate understanding of the folks we want to reach if we want to be effective. So that's the first thing that I want you to get from this, an accurate sense of what folks think of the church. A huge majority of the people in our community do not see the church positively. But the second thing I want you to know is that we are already doing things at Summit Church to help combat this perception. And this is where I want to make sure that we connect the dots for you. And let me explain what I mean. Over the last year, we've added some things to our ministry. You know, we host a blood drive with the American Red Cross every quarter. We became a voting location for our local neighborhood for both the primary election last May and the general election in November. We just added the Love Inc. adult clothes closet. They had clients here for the first time yesterday morning. Those are all new this year. For the past 10 years or so, we've grown thousands of pounds of vegetables for the Idaho Food Bank in our community garden. Now, why do we do these things? My hope is that taken together, folks in our community will begin to see Summit Church positively. So when you talk with folks about your church, they'll say, oh, well, that's the place where I vote. Or, oh, that's the church that has the blood drives throughout the year. That's the church that's helping people in our city get clothes, or even, well, that's the church that allows that great food truck to use their parking lot every Friday and has outdoor movie nights in the summer for families. Now, let me be clear. None of those things is evangelism. Our goal isn't to host a food truck or just give away clothes. We want to lead people to Jesus. But it's hard to do when folks have a negative impression of the church. It's much easier when people see the kindness and generosity and community involvement. So I want you to see all these things that we're doing in the context of reaching our neighbors. One pastor friend of mine put it this way: good deeds lead to goodwill, which leads to opportunities for the good news. Summit Church exists to reach Southwest Boise with the gospel, and then to make disciples out of the people we reach. And I want you to know that many of the things you see taking place this year are directly related to that goal. So I hope that you'll talk with others about the good things we're doing for the community here at Summit Church, because it will create goodwill toward the church and make it easier to invite them to events where we share the good news of Jesus.